Welcome to the Sua Sponte Podcast. I am Ranger Gonzales. I'm here with our host, Ken Harper. And in this episode, we are going to be interviewing him. We're going to be asking him questions about his military background, his experience, his time separating from the military and what he did afterwards, and get some advice from him um, for the rest of us and how we all can succeed. So, how you doing today, Ken?
Good. How you doing, Sergeant Sauce?
Good, good. I just want to start by letting everyone know Sergeant Harper was came to me as a PFC or a specialist.
PSC.
A PFC and just moved to the top of the ranks and within my section. Squared away dude. Anything he says, I uh, I respect and hold it to a certain regard. But so the first question is, can you let us know a little bit about your experience in the military, like when you started, when you get out, a couple of things you did.
Yeah. So I joined in 2009. Um, Went through RIP or RASP. It was changing at that point, and so I went through that, and then I graduated, and I went straight to Third Battalion, and then from there I was there for a couple weeks, and they sent me over on the mid rotator. So then I deployed. I came back, went through Ranger School, went on another deployment, came back. I went to Sapper School and some other schools, and then went on another deployment, and then pretty much got out. So I was pretty much in and out pretty quick. I really enjoyed my time in battalion. I think battalion is one of the greatest and the best military units, like hands down.
And why do you mean, why you saying battalion? What do you mean?
Just Ranger Battalion. I mean, just the objective standards. I mean, we had so many things going for us. You know, um, the big army just it's just a lot of it's minimum standards. Nobody really cares. Seems like everybody that's in Ranger Battalion really wants to be there. They're really good at what they do. They really care about what they do, and it just shows.
Yeah, one thing I would hear um, a lot about the people when they would try to justify the caliber of man that was in that third range battalion or in Ranger Regiment is how many times they volunteered to get there. They volunteered to join the army. They volunteered to go to airborne school. They volunteered to go to RIP, and that's more than your average soldier who just does the one volunteer, raise their hand, and they go to their unit. So, which school do you think is harder, Ranger or Sapper?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot. I'm gonna be honest. So like, I've talked to a lot of guys.
Don't you say it.
No, I'm not gonna say it then, but we know. I'll know without saying it. But Ranger School has changed. It's not like what it used to be. It was, and I'm not gonna say like it wasn't like hard. You know, I went straight through Ranger School and Sapper School. You have to go straight through. So
Hmm.
there's no option. You don't get a recycle Sapper School. It is shorter. It's 30 days shorter, but it's still very intense. I think they're both really hard schools. I just think where Ranger schools kind of let up is the fact that they just let dudes recycle infinite now. You know, it's like if a guy can't recycle, you know, like, and so that's one thing where it's just kind of like some dudes are eventually like everybody feels bad for a guy that's been recycling for 9 months. They're just going to give him his go. And to be honest, I don't think that should happen. You know, I mean, if a dude can't figure it out, like that's that's probably because you can't figure it out. So
Yeah.
um,
All right.
I have mad respect for Ranger School, and I don't want it to take anything away from Ranger Battalion. And I know those two are somewhat synonymous, especially for people that don't know anything about battalion or Ranger School. But it's really hard to explain sometimes. Even to big army people, they're like, "Oh, you were a Ranger? That means you have a tab." And I'm like, "No, I mean I went to Ranger School, but it's not the same thing." And or you have the 82nd dudes that are like, "Oh yeah, I went to Ranger School," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you weren't in battalion, so you don't really know." But yeah, I think, I mean, to get to it, but Sapper School I think was a lot harder because um, You had to pass. I mean, ultimately, when we got done with sapper school, there was 28 guys that started, and we're talking about like E7s and captains or higher, and there was four of us that were getting tabs, and
Yeah.
that's pretty. It was pretty crazy because a lot of the dudes in our class, like they were really squared away dudes, like
And only
a
four of you
lot of
made it.
military experience. What's that?
Only four people got their tabs
In my class, yeah,
out of how many you started? Like
28.
130 or 28?
Yeah,
Dang.
I think we had 32, but I think like four failed the PT test, which that's just stupid. I mean, if you are gonna go to a school like that and you can't pass a PT, like you should have never even left. But anyways, that happens everywhere. That's Ranger School, Airborne School. They all fail a PT test. But
Okay.
anyways, yeah. So
Yeah, let's move on. So we talked about your experience in the military. You know what I mean? A couple of the two premier army schools you went to, which is super impressive. Um, Now let's talk about your separating from military experience. A little bit of like, how it felt when you're getting out. Did you have a plan? Did you have a support system? And how did whatever factors have that you had in your life, how did they affect you in a positive, negative way?
yeah, so when I was getting out of the military, um, I had a plan. Like I was like, well, I'm gonna go to college. Before I joined the military, I worked at UPS, and so I was like, well, I'll go. I was on military leave, so I'll go back and work at UPS again. And so I got out of the army and I did that. I went to college for a while, which it was good, but I didn't really have a plan with my degree. I was just kind of trying to get a basic degree, and I feel like a lot of people fall in that boat where they're like, I'm gonna get out of army and then I'm gonna go to college for something, and then I'm gonna get a job, but that doesn't happen all the time. And so I was kind of in that point where I was like, man, I don't know if this degree is going to pan out for a job. So I went to Sage truck driving school and I got my CDL, and UPS had an opening to drive semi trucks, and so I I took my opportunity, and now I'm driving semi trucks. I do it every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and it's not the coolest job, it's not the funnest job. Um, a lot of people look at you like you're an idiot when you're a truck driver sometimes, but um, I don't know, man. It's what we need. At the end of the day, like the basic stuff is what keeps this country running, and somebody has to do it.
Right?
But my plan, to get a good degree and a really good job, like those weren't necessarily a one for one. Some of that changed, and some of it was kind of hard dealing with the process. Like I feel like the government doesn't tell you everything your GI Bill can be used for. Everybody just goes to college because they think that that's what they can do. But it seems like there's a lot of other things out there. I don't know what they all are, but I thought it was really cool that it paid for truck driving school.
Oh yeah. All right. So what about your support system? Did you have a support system when you're separating?
Not really, because you guys all deployed, and then I got out of the military and moved to Montana, which is nowhere near Georgia. I grew up in Washington State, so I wasn't by my family, but I kind of did that to myself. I didn't want to move back home. I didn't really want to stay in Georgia, and I always come to Montana growing up, going fishing and hunting and a lot of stuff like that. So that's why I moved here, and I went to the University of Montana. So it was kind of hard. I did have it was a pretty rough couple of years, because you get out of battalion and you drink a lot and you party a lot and you act like a single aged male a lot, which is not good for a wife and family. And so I did have some friends, at church. I had a lot of problems, and they helped me realize that um, the person that lies to me the most and the person that creates the most problems for me is myself. And so coming to that realization and, kind of getting recentered on like, um, we've talked about it with some of the guys of like having a moral compass. For me, objectively, like I look to the Bible to kind of give me a bearing of right and wrong in my life and morality and like, where I come from, my origin, and then like my destiny. And so that's like really important for me. And that has become more important for me since I've separated from the military because, um, man, I kind of lost all my foundation for a while because you really do take that stuff for granted in the military, especially in Ranger Battalion, how black and white things are and how just we have really good fundamental stuff and leaders holding us accountable and saying like, if you're doing something wrong, like they will tell you like you can no longer do this and you need to do that. And so um, you don't get that in the civilian world. You just get to do whatever you want. And if that's a decision that completely ruins you, like no one's going to really hold your hand and stop you from doing something like, it was in the military.
Yeah, you're right. What I hear when you talk about it is um, setting left and right limits. That's what the NCOs and the people above you in Ranger Regiment do. They were like, you know what I mean? Stay in these lanes and you're gonna be okay. And like other conversations we had, that's why they let guys not let, but kind of were like if guys were drinking at night and they would come and still perform as long as they were doing what they needed to do and there was an affecting it. They were like, you're in that left and right limits. But when you get out, those limits are gone. There's no, like you said, there's nobody there to reel you in. And that's awesome. You found some things to reel you in. Um, so, I mean, you talked about the drinking. That was an issue. Um, any other issues that you ran into that you think other veterans will run into on their separation path?
Yeah, I think a big thing is not being fully prepared for getting out of the military. Like, it's one thing to say, I'm going to go to college, but like eventually your GI Bill runs out. So, really, like, having that understanding of like, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to get this degree, like, make sure it's a degree that actually is like civilian world, like not only necessary but like relatable, like one for one, so you can actually leave college and get a job. Because a lot of people would just get like I was getting a business administration degree, and it's like that's very generic, that's very like just broad. It doesn't fit into like an accountant, like you go be an accountant, like that's a one for one, like companies
Mm-hmm.
love that. But that generic broad thing, like that's hard to really get a job, um, because a lot of people get that degree, and then really what differentiates you from somebody else. So I think that, I think also, like I didn't really have a good support system. I think people could have a better support system. And so like that's one of the reasons why we've created this podcast. It's an another reason is like why we've created this. There's like a call line we have is to try to help people.
A little technical difficulties, and we're back now. Um,
So yeah, like I was saying, um, have a degree that is actually going to be transferable to a job. And then also, I think another thing that's really good for people is just, and I know it sounds dumb, but like, treat people the way you want to be treated, and like help look out for people, and find people that will be honest with you. Like in battalion, like I feel like we took that for granted, but having a chain of command and having other people that are squared away around you and that are willing to tell you like when you're screwed up, like that's a good thing. Like people that are like honestly care about you and want you to do good. Well, because in the army, like your lives depend on it. But in the civilian world, like that's really hard to find. It's really hard to find people that genuinely care about you, because some people want to watch you go down a path that's destructive for you because it makes them look better. And so I think those are some of the like three most important things is finding good people that aren't going to bring you down, and then playing them, but that's like being in the army, having good situational awareness.
yeah, that's some good advice. Um, my kind of takeaway from when you're talking about the colleges and just all post military experience is try to be direct with your actions. Even like like you said, going to college, don't just get a general degree. Get something like, I am going to be an accountant. I am going to be X, and then pursue that. Don't just do the easiest route. Um, but man, thanks again for telling us your story, Ken. We appreciate it. And if anybody watching has any comments or any questions for Ken or myself, please put them below. Other than that, I just want to say thanks for watching, and Rangers lead the way.